The first time I saw my husband with his new family, I was hiding behind a potted fern in the Mall food court. It was a ridiculous place for a 42-year-old woman to be, crouched behind synthetic leaves, clutching a half-empty smoothie like a lifeline. But I had followed him there, compelled by a sickness I couldn't name. He was supposed to be at a conference in Milwaukee, but my sister had sent me a photo from her own shopping trip, Marcus laughing, his arm around a woman who was not me. The woman was younger, with honey blonde hair and the kind of effortless beauty that made me feel ancient and worn. There was a toddler on his hip, a little boy with Marcus's dimples, and a baby girl in a stroller. I watched them from my hiding spot. Marcus was feeding the toddler a French fry, dipping it in ketchup with the same careful patience he used to reserve for me. The woman, his wife I assumed, though I was still legally that, was pushing the stroller with one hand and holding a latte with the other. She looked content. She looked like she had everything I had lost. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march over there and demand an explanation, remind him of the 18 years we had spent building a life together, remind him of the miscarriage that had hollowed me out, and the years of fertility treatments that had left me broken in ways no doctor could fix. But I didn't. Instead, I slipped out of the food court and drove home to the empty house we still shared, because Marcus had been traveling for work, so often that I had grown accustomed to the silence. That was the moment everything changed, though I didn't know it yet. That was the moment I stopped being a wife and started being a ghost in my own life. The affair had been going on for 3 years, I later learned. 3 years of Marcus telling me he was working late, attending out-of-town meetings, helping a friend with a renovation project. 3 years of me believing him because I had no reason not to. We had been the perfect couple, the kind that other people envied. High school sweethearts who had survived long distance during college, career changes, and the kind of financial strain that broke lesser marriages. We had built a successful real estate business from the ground up, our names known in every suburb within a 50-mile radius. I had handled the books, the client relations, the marketing. He had been the closer, the charm, the face of Marcus and Mia Properties. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped being Mia the wife and become Mia the business partner. The infertility had done something to us, created a rift that neither of us knew how to bridge. We stopped talking about it, stopped talking about much of anything. I buried myself in work and he buried himself in her name was Natalie. She was 29, a former client we had helped buy her first condo. I remembered her vaguely, pretty, bubbly, with a nervous laugh that made her seem younger than she was. She had sent us a thank you card, a bottle of wine, and a promise to refer all her friends. I had thought nothing of it. Marcus had thought something. He had thought enough to start texting her, meeting her for coffee, and eventually falling into the kind of love that made him forget he already had a wife. When I confronted him with the photos, he didn't deny it. He didn't apologize either. He just sat at the kitchen table, his face a mask of weary resignation, and told me he was leaving. "I'm in love with her, Mia," he said. "I didn't plan this, it just happened." "It just happened," I repeated, my voice shaking. "You have a child with her, Marcus, a 2-year-old and a baby. That didn't just happen, that took planning, that took years of lying to me." He flinched, but only slightly. "I know I should have told you I was a coward. But I'm not going to apologize for finding happiness. I deserve to be happy." "I don't," he didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. The divorce was swift and brutal. I didn't fight it, partly because I was too broken to fight, and partly because Marcus had already drained our joint accounts and transferred assets to Natalie's name. The real estate business, the one I had helped build, was suddenly his alone. He had been planning this for years, systematically removing me from our financial life. I was left with the house, which was underwater on the mortgage, and a car that was 3 payments away from being repossessed. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia, urged me to fight harder. "He's hiding assets, Mia. We can prove it. We can take him to court and make him pay." I was tired. So tired of the betrayal, the lies, the years of feeling invisible. I just wanted it over. I signed the papers, took what little I was given, and watched Marcus walk out the door with a suitcase and a promise to send the rest of his things later. He never did. For months I existed in a fog. I stopped answering calls from friends. I let the business go under because without Marcus I couldn't face clients who knew him, who had seen him with his new family and whispered behind my back. I sold the house for a fraction of what it was worth and moved into a tiny apartment that smelled like stale cigarette smoke and regret. I took a job at a retail store, folding clothes and pretending I didn't hear the customers talking about their happy marriages. I hated him. I hated him with a depth I didn't know I was capable of. I hated his new wife, his perfect children, his continued success. He and Natalie had opened their own real estate firm, and it was thriving. They were the new power couple, their faces on billboards and bus benches. Every time I saw his smile on a bus stop ad, I felt a fresh wave of nausea. But here's the thing about hate, it's exhausting. It consumes you, hollows you out until there's nothing left but a shell of bitterness. I knew I couldn't go on like that. I had to find a way to move forward, to reclaim some version of myself, so I started small. I went for walks. I called my sister, who had been trying to reach me for months. I started therapy, where I sat in a too-bright room and told a stranger all the things I couldn't tell anyone else. And then slowly I started to rebuild. I went back to what I knew, real estate, but not the cutthroat world of suburban home sales. I found a niche in property management, working for a small firm that handled low-income housing. It wasn't glamorous, it didn't pay much. But it was honest work, and it gave me a purpose. I helped families find homes, helped people who were struggling just like I was. It reminded me that there was more to life than revenge, more than the bitter satisfaction of watching my ex-husband fall. For a while I thought I had moved on. I thought I had found peace. But peace is fragile, and it shatters easily when the past comes crashing back in. I heard about Marcus's downfall through the grapevine because of course I did. In our small city, news travelled fast, and the downfall of a golden boy was too delicious to keep quiet. It started with rumours. The firm was in trouble, Marcus had made some bad investments, Natalie had left him. I didn't believe it at first. Marcus was too careful, too calculating to let everything fall apart, but then the details started to emerge. He had been sued by a former client for fraud, accused of hiding property defects and falsifying documents. The lawsuit was the tip of the iceberg. Investigators found a pattern of financial misconduct stretching back years, a web of deceit that unraveled everything he had built. The firm collapsed. The assets were frozen. And Natalie, his perfect new wife, had taken the children and disappeared, leaving him with nothing but debt and a shattered reputation. When I read the news online, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was satisfaction, yes. A dark, petty joy that he was finally getting what he deserved. But there was something else too, something that surprised me. Pity. I remembered the man I had married, the boy who had proposed to me under a sky full of fireworks, promising to love me forever. I remembered the years of laughter, the inside jokes, the quiet moments of contentment. Somewhere in there, beneath all the lies and betrayal, had there been love? Or had it always been a performance, a mask he wore until he found someone better? I didn't know. I don't think I'll ever know. But I did know that I couldn't let his downfall define me. I had spent too long being defined by his choices, his betrayal, his leaving. It was time to write my own story. I threw myself into my work, building a reputation as someone who cared, who fought for her clients, who made a difference. I started volunteering at a shelter for women escaping domestic abuse, using my real estate knowledge to help them find safe, affordable housing. It was the most meaningful work I had ever done, and it gave me a sense of purpose that I had been missing for years. And then, a year after Marcus's collapse, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. The voice was shaky, hesitant. "It's Marcus." I nearly dropped the phone. My heart hammered in my chest. Part of me wanted to hang up to pretend I had never heard him, but another part, the part that had once loved him, needed to hear what he had to say. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cold. "I need to see you," he said. "Please, I know I have no right to ask, but I need to apologize, I need to explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said. "You made your choices, you chose her, you chose them." "I know," he said, and his voice cracked. "And I was wrong, I was so wrong. I thought I had found happiness, but it was all a lie. She never loved me, Mia. She loved my money, my status. When it all fell apart, she was gone before the dust settled. I have nothing left, no one, I don't even know where my children are. I should have felt vindicated, I should have said, 'Good, you deserve everything you're getting.' But I didn't." I remembered the hollow emptiness I had felt in the months after the divorce, the days when I couldn't get out of bed, the nights when I cried until I had no tears left. Marcus was experiencing that now, and despite everything, I couldn't wish it on anyone. "Why are you calling me?" I asked, my voice softer now. "Because you're the only person who ever really knew me," he said. "And I threw that away, I threw you away. I need to make it right, Mia. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to listen, but I need to say it." I agreed to meet him, though I didn't know why. Maybe it was closure, maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the lingering remnants of a love that had never fully died. We met at a coffee shop, the same one where we had gone on our first date. He looked terrible, gaunt, tired, his eyes hollow. The confident man I had married was gone, replaced by someone who had been broken by his own choices. He apologized. He cried. Told me everything, the affair, the lies, the years of feeling trapped in a life that didn't fit. He admitted that he had been a coward, that he had taken the easy way out instead of fighting for our marriage. "I was so afraid of being unhappy," he said. "I thought leaving you would make me happy, but it just made me empty." I listened without interrupting. I let him say everything he needed to say, and when he was done, I took a deep breath. I'm not going to forgive you, I said. Not right now. Maybe not ever, but I'm not going to hate you either. Hate takes too much energy, and I've spent enough of my life being angry at you. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. I understand. I hope you find a way to rebuild your life, I continued. I hope you find a way to be a father to your children, even if you do know where they are. But I can't be part of that. I've moved on, Marcus. I've built something new, and I'm not going to let you tear it down. He tried to argue, tried to beg, but I stood up and walked away. I didn't look back. The days that followed were strange. I thought I would feel lighter, free of the weight of the past, but instead I felt sad. Not for Marcus, but for the years we had lost. For the love we had once shared and the bitterness that had replaced it, but I refused to let the sadness consume me. I kept working, kept volunteering, kept building a life that was mine alone, and slowly the sadness began to fade. A few months later, I ran into Natalie at a grocery store. She looked haggard, her blonde hair unwashed, her children crying in the cart. She didn't see me at first, and I almost slipped away without saying anything. But then our eyes met, and I saw the fear in her gaze. She said, her voice trembling. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I replied. I don't want an apology, I don't want anything from you. She nodded, blinking back tears. I know I made a terrible mistake. I ruined your marriage, I broke up your family, I was selfish and cruel, and I will never forgive myself. I looked at her, at the exhaustion etched into her face, at the children who had no idea what their parents had done. And I realized that I didn't hate her either. She was just a woman who had made terrible choices, just like Marcus. I don't forgive you, I said. But I don't hate you either. I hope you find a way to give those children a good life. They deserve better than all of this. She burst into tears, and I walked away. I never saw Marcus again. I heard through mutual friends that he had moved to another state, started a new job, and was trying to reconnect with his children. I don't know if he succeeded, I don't really care. His story is no longer mine. As for me, I'm doing okay. I've built a life that matters, filled with work that gives me purpose and people who care about me. I've learned that karma isn't about punishment or revenge. It's about the choices we make and the consequences we face. Marcus made his choices and he faced the consequences. Natalie made hers and she faced them too. And I made mine, and I'm still facing them every single day. But I'm not bitter anymore, I'm not angry, I'm just here, living, breathing, finding joy in the small things like a good cup of coffee, a sunset, a kind word from a stranger. I've learned that happiness isn't something you find, it's something you create. And I'm creating it one day at a time. They say that living well is the best revenge. I used to think that was just a platitude, something people said to make themselves feel better. But now I know it's true. I've moved on, not just from Marcus, but from the person I was when I was with him. I'm stronger now, wiser, more compassionate, not in spite of what happened, but because of it. Karma didn't destroy Marcus, he did that himself. And karma didn't save me, I saved myself. That's the real lesson, the one I carry with me every day. We are all the architects of our own fate, and no one can tear down what we have built unless we let them. I won't let them. Not ever again, make in female voice.